Hello everyone, it's me, and I'm here again today to talk about a little anime short called Children of Ether, or is it Ether? Who even knows? Now, this anime is notable because it was directed and created by Lesean Thomas, an animator who's known for working on shows such as The Boondocks and Black Dynamite. He didn't create and direct those shows, but he did work as a key animator on those shows, which does explain why those shows have really good animation. And he's mostly known for advocating for more black animation, more black anime, and that seems to be true because all the projects he has worked on, they've all have black leads in them. Children of Ether, Cannon Busters, and Yosuke, they all have black leads, and I think that's really cool because we really do need to see more black lead roles in anime, and it's so rare that we are the main characters in pretty much anything, to be honest, especially in anime. So it's definitely a nice change of pace. Now, what do I think about Children of Ether particularly? Well, it certainly has good visuals, but the story isn't up to par. Let me explain. Our story begins with our main character called Rhonda on this train fighting against raiders. They're all trying to kill her or something, and she has this big sword and she's just cutting them down trying to defend herself. And there's one raider is about to kill her, but then she gets surrounded by this green mysterious energy that destroys the train and makes it go off course. And from there, she wakes up in the tunnels where she gets saved by this little girl. And I thought this girl was a boy at first because the vocal range was what you would expect from a little boy, but it's actually a little girl character. So that's interesting. So the little girl, she helps heal her and gets her back on her feet. And she asks, "Oh, what are you doing in the tunnels?" And Rhonda replies, "I need to get to the other side. There's someone I need to meet there." And from then on, we know that Rhonda's main goal in life is to get to the other side to meet this specific person. And on the way, when she tries to get there, she runs into a gang of raiders, the same gang that she was fighting on the train. Now she's face to face with the leader of this gang, the Vandals, I believe, and he's angry. He's out for vengeance, like, "Oh, you were messing with my gang. What are you going to do about it?" And she tries to defend herself, like, "Well, I wanted to pay tribute. I don't really have anything to give you because I lost it." And he doesn't like to hear that. So they get into a brief fight. And as they are talking, we learn that Rhonda is the daughter of this really famous guy. We don't really know what he's famous for, but apparently he's a peacekeeper, even though the gang leader calls him a fellow warrior. So I don't really know what his role or job was in this setting, but he's a really famous person. And we know that Rhonda is guilty of this sin. The guy's like, "Oh, you need to confess to my warders. What have you done? What are you guilty of?" And she confesses that she killed her own father. But she also professes that it was an accident. So that's another question. Okay, how and why did she kill her dad? Why did this happen? How did this happen? No, really important questions that we don't get the answer to. And after that, she goes to this rooftop where she meets this guy, and she's like, "Oh, I'm looking for the goat. Can you tell me where the goat is?" "Oh, I don't know where the goat is." And honestly, this story was so convoluted and disjointed. I didn't know what was going on half the time because it does this weird story technique where I've seen this story technique so many times. It does this technique where you just bring up a bunch of vague concepts and ideas. You have this really cryptic dialogue. You bring up a bunch of terms that don't get explained so you could put on the facade of having a deep backstory. But what it really is that this story doesn't have a lot going on for it. And because of that, I was surprised that people were calling this a pilot episode. I never got the vibe that this was a pilot episode. I was under assumption that this was supposed to be a self-contained short story because this is like around 14 or 15 minutes, I want to say. It was never advertised as being a pilot episode. It was always advertised as being just an anime short. And I really don't think Lesean Thomas even wants to turn this into a series because he has not mentioned it ever since he went on to work for Netflix. Yeah, I don't think he's mentioned it ever since. I don't think he has any plans on making a series. There hasn't been any campaigns to turn into a series, you know? So it's like, I don't think he cares. He just tried making this thing. It didn't really work out. I don't think Children of Effort did a good job at establishing a dramatic situation at all. We know that Rhonda wants to go to the other side. We don't know what the other side is. Is this like a giant wall dividing society or something? What is the other side? We don't know what her dad is famous for. What was his role? We don't know the circumstances behind his death. We don't know this mysterious energy that activates whenever Rhonda is apparently in mortal danger. We don't know any of that. We don't know who the goat is. We don't know anything. And like, I get it. If this really is a pilot episode, you're supposed to inspire questions. But again, it doesn't feel like a pilot episode at all. It just feels like just a really discombobulated story. It doesn't even feel like a first episode. It feels like you're watching the it feels like you're watching a show in the middle of the season. Apparently, it really does feel like that. I don't know what this show was trying to do. The animation, the artwork, the voice acting, all of it was really good. I have to say, I did like the character designs. They were nice and diverse. Rhonda definitely has a strong character design. I like her stat. You can tell she's a protagonist just from the way she looks. I do like her character design. I like the animation, nice explosion effects, nice little fight scenes. There isn't a lot of fighting. The fighting is very brief, but what we do see is nice and fluid. I do like that. And I do like the voice acting. The voice acting sounds very natural. All the voice actors fit like a glove for the characters. And yeah, visually and I'm sorry, visually and audio wise, the show, not even a show, it's a special. The special is amazing, but the story is very weak. Like, I don't I don't have a good vibe from the show. The world building also isn't very good because it just feels like the most standard sci-fi futuristic dystopian society setting I've ever seen. And the only reason why I'm calling it dystopian is because the scenery looks very run down. Even though there is futuristic technology, a lot of the stuff is very run down and looks decayed. So it just looks like very basic, you know? There's really nothing much going for it. I feel like there could have been more done. There should have been more done to differentiate this story from other sci-fi stories, because you could just replace this. You could just replace the setting with any other sci-fi show. It didn't have a lot of individuality. It didn't feel very unique. I feel that Urbans, even though that story was also kind of half baked, I feel like Urbans did a lot better job at establishing the dramatic situation, at establishing the characters. It did a lot better. It did a better job at garnering interest inside the world, how it works. The background art was definitely a lot better than Urbans. It had that amazing hip hop style, graffiti style you rarely ever see nowadays. You know, it just had that really amazing style to it. And the settings, the background, it felt full of life. And in Children of Effort, we don't get much. It just feels very generic. And I hate to say it. I really hate to say it, but Children of Effort, it was kind of disappointing. And I see that a lot of people have given it like 5 out of 5 stars. They really enjoyed it and they were loving it, and good for them. But me personally, I know this is a controversial opinion, but I don't think this pilot was all that good. It didn't feel all that interesting. I felt like it could have done so much more. And it's disappointing because I really wanted to root for Lesean Thomas. I really wanted him to be the best. We were all rooting for him. And I was not feeling Children of Effort at all. And on that note, even though I haven't watched Cannon Busters yet, I've been hearing that a lot of people didn't like the show. Some felt it was mediocre. And with Yosuke, even more people didn't like that show. They were saying how disappointing that show was. So I'm beginning to think, is Lesean Thomas even a good storyteller at all? Again, I have to watch Cannon Busters, and I think Cannon Busters might be the next anime I watch on Netflix, because I've been wanting to review and watch that show for the longest, because I know there was some drama about how long it was taking for that show to finally get hit off the air. Because it had a successful Kickstarter, and there was so much silence after it became a success because Lesean Thomas, he kept making promises like, oh, I'm going to make the show, like years of silence until it finally came out a few years ago. So that might be the next show I review. I'm currently watching this anime called Red Garden. Oh my god, I cannot wait till I finish that so I can review that show. I also recently finished watching King and Ashura. I'm watching it in Spanish. When I watch anime on Spanish, I usually watch it. I'm sorry. When I watch anime on Netflix, I usually watch it on Spanish because I like watching Spanish now. And that show was also really good. But anyway, back to this show. It just wasn't that good. It had amazing visuals and amazing sound, but the story wasn't memorable. It wasn't that good. I didn't get a good feel of the characters. I didn't get a good feel of the world, the story, the dramatic situation, the themes at all. It just felt half baked, and that's very unfortunate to say. If I were to give it a rating, because I really don't do ratings, because it's so hard to put emotions into numbers. But if I have to give it a rating, I would probably give it like a 5 out of 10, and that's mostly because of the animation. The story itself was not enough to carry the show. It just was not all that entertaining. I have no idea what Lee Sung was trying to tell, what type of story he was trying to tell, but it wasn't it. It wasn't all that good. And I hope he has improved on his writing. And I will be the judge of that when I finally do watch Cannon Busters. I hope he does improve on his writing because he does have a good message on wanting to make more black anime, wanting to make more diverse shows. I really do enjoy that. I do support him in that endeavor, but he needs to work on his storytelling skills. Because if you don't have a good story, you just have a piece of good animation without a world, without a story, without characters that are worth remembering. So he really, really needs to work on his writing skills if he does want to get far into the industry. And that is pretty much all of my thoughts of Children of Ever. Even though this was a fairly negative review, I do recommend you watch the show yourself and make your own opinions because you might enjoy it. You might have a different opinion than me. So yeah, if you have watched Children of Ever, tell me what you think. What do you enjoy about it? How do you feel about my criticism against it? And what do you think about Lesean Thomas as a whole? So please look forward to my next video. Peace out.